I'm back from Mexico with a little bit of jet lag, but I'm very happy to be in front of my laptop with you guys. The Asia Cup is around the corner. South Africa final preparation for the World Cup as they play Australia at home in 3 T20s and 5 ODIs as the squads are getting together for the big tournament that's later this year. We'll also have a look at Dewald Brevis as he finally breaks through. All in this week's 360 show presented by Fairplay.
Watching a very high-class player.
This is when you know Villiers is at his best.
Our trip to Mexico was absolutely unbelievable. Quality time with my family. Lots of sun, as you can see. I'm a little bit burnt. Very much jet lag, that's for sure. I haven't slept for the last 2 days, but very happy to be here. As we move on to cricketing stuff, the Asia Cup is right around the corner, and there's some big headlines. Teams are trying to finalize their squads for the World Cup coming up. So the Asia Cup will be very important for all those teams to make sure they get their balance right. We know Sri Lanka is trying to defend their title, which is very exciting for them. A bit of an upset win last year, and they'll be trying to come. They always seem to play as the underdogs, which makes them a very, very dangerous squad. And they're always there and thereabout. So keep an eye out for that squad. But let's move on to the Indian squad. I see KL Rahul, Shreyas Iyer and Tilak Varma make it to the India's Asia Cup squad. We saw Jasper Bumrah, Prashid Krishna back from injury as well in Ireland, as Bumrah even won the man of the series. It shows you what kind of talent he is coming back from injury. And I've heard the coaches say that it looks like he's never been away. So incredible talent. I'm not surprised at all with Bumrah's performance. And it's very exciting for India to see him in form. And I see that Yuzvendra Chahal has been dropped from the 17-man squad. So the selectors really making their intentions clear as to who they're going to be picking for that World Cup, or who they're looking at least. It's a bit of a disappointing drop for me as well. I think Yuzi is always very handy. It's great to have that leg spinning option in your team. We know how skillful he can be and is, not can be, he is. But anyway, the decision has been made, and it is what it is. You can see the squad here, the Indian squad for the Asia Cup. Very strong squad, really good balance. As I said, I would have liked to see Yuzi there, but other than that, it's pretty strong. And we're still talking about who's going to be that number 4 batter for India. I've heard some rumors about VIRAT possibly taking up that position. I would be a big supporter of that. I think VIRAT is perfect for number 4, can keep the innings together and play any kind of role in that middle order. I don't know if he would like to do that. We know he loves his number 3 position. He scored all his runs there. But at the end of the day, if the team needs you to do something or to play a certain role, you got to put your hand up and go for it. Let's see what happens. It's all very exciting. And I'm pretty sure India will have a very good performance at the Asia Cup. And it also actually makes me think of what are the possibilities of an Africa Cup down the line to really sort of combine forces and to get all the associate nations a chance to play on the bigger stage. I would love to see an Africa Cup down the line as we see with the Asia Cup. All very exciting as all the teams try and get the squads together for the World Cup coming up. As we move on to have a look at some of the other squads, Nepal and Pakistan squad there on your screens. Not a lot of surprises there with the Pakistan squad. 1 or 2 names that I am not very familiar with, but Pakistan are always a strong force to be reckoned with. And I think obviously Pakistan and India are the favourites for this year's Asia Cup. But as I alluded to before, Sri Lanka always the underdogs, and they always find a way to upset the big teams. And maybe some of the smaller teams, Nepal, Bangladesh. Bangladesh is not a small team anymore. They've proven that over the years. But maybe some of them will have a hand to play as well. It's all to play for in the Asia Cup, that's for sure. The Nepal squad, not familiar with a lot of the names, but as we've seen before, they always have one or two players who come through on the biggest stage. You see them in the IPL, and I've no doubt that with this year's Asia Cup, some of those names will put their hands up, and we'll see them soon in the IPL. And moving on to the South African squad to play Australia. Australia coming over here to South Africa. They start off in Durban with some T20s, but what we are very interested about is the ODIs coming up. 3 ODIs in Bloemfontein, then 1 at Centurion, and the final ODI will be in Johannesburg. It's a hugely important time this for South Africa to make sure they get all the names in their hat and they make sure they get that balance right. It's a bit of a fresh squad. I see some new names there, particularly Dewald Brevis. You guys know that I've worked with him before. I'm still in touch with him on a weekly basis. Love working with a guy and never expected him to jump through the ranks that quickly. But I'm very happy to see him in the Proteas squad. Finally, it's a huge breakthrough. I'm extremely happy, very, very excited. And there's no doubt that number 17 will be impressing all of you in this upcoming series. I hope he gets game time. He might not start, but let's see what Coach Rob Walter has in mind for this series. I know it's an important one for them, and he will have his plans in place, that's for sure. I've worked with Rob for many years, Rob Walter. He used to be my fitness coach back in the day when I was very young, and I'm very happy to see him as the coach of the Proteas ODI team moving forward. He's got a very sharp cricketing brain on his head. Talking a little bit about Dewald Brevis, I've worked with him many times in the nets. We chat about the mental side of the game and quite a few other things. He's been referred to as Baby AB before, which is quite funny. He's got the number 17 on his back, and we've worked together, so the press had a ball of a time playing around with that one. I've actually spoken to him about it, and I've heard some interviews as well, and he would like to make up his own name, which I absolutely love. He's a strong character, and he doesn't mind the association, but I don't think he would like to be called Baby AB. He would rather be known as Brevis or Dewald or whatever the case may be. He will find his own nickname down the line as he starts playing more IPL games. I think the Indian public will give him his nickname eventually. He's a very, very talented, flamboyant youngster. And talking about flamboyancy, that is the one area we're still working on for him to understand how to build an innings, how to pace an innings, how not always to be in 5th and 6th gear. You can see that through his highlight packages of the past, he's quite in a hurry always, and he loves taking on the bowlers, which I absolutely love, but there's always a time and a place. You need to balance it out. And I want him to start understanding that with his game. He's got all the criteria to be a great one day, to play all formats internationally, to play a lot of IPL cricket and lots of other franchise cricket around the world. But it's a matter of him working out how his game works. We know his technique is solid. We can see that. I've worked on his technique and it's absolutely flawless. There's no errors, that's for sure. It's all about the mental side of the game for him moving forward and understanding how to build an innings and to win games of cricket. I've said it numerous times in the press. There's nothing more rewarding than being there at the end of an innings. And I've been harping on that with him, telling him, I want you to win games of cricket. And that doesn't always mean 20 of 10 balls and you sit in the change room. Sometimes it is to extend that innings a little bit. You will have the innings or two where you just go from the start. We all have those special days, but I want consistency from Dewald Brevis. And he's got a golden opportunity now that he's in the South African squad. And I'm pretty sure he'll get some game time against Australia. And his technique and his mental capacity will be tested in that series because we know the Australian bowling lineup is a force to be reckoned with, that's for sure. But very exciting to see young Dewald Brevis in the squad. I'm very happy. I hope you guys are, and I hope he scores a lot of runs for South Africa. More news with the South African squad. They have not played any cricket since their World Cup Super League series against the Netherlands. Now, that's a long time ago, people. But we heard Rob Walter in an interview or in a presser. I'm not sure where he released it, but I read the article where he said that he's not too worried about that. He's actually very happy that his players have been playing around the world. So it's an interesting topic. It reminds me a bit of the English Premier League, actually, and the football world out there. you don't often play for your country. They almost just get them together for the big tournaments, the World Cups, and a few more. So is it a problem for the team not to have been together for a long time? I don't think so. Obviously, there's been a lot of emphasis about the team spirit and the culture you create. But at the end of the day, it's a professional sport. And I think if the players come together with a bit of a build-up, I see they went to the Kruger Park, that's more than enough. That, with a huge series against Australia, in my opinion, they will gel together. They all know each other. And even though they've played around the world, they will come back together and gel as a team. There's no doubt about it. So at the end of the day, yes, I would like to see South Africa play more cricket. That's a whole different topic again. I feel that ICC needs to come to the party a little bit and give the other teams also some time on the international stage. We saw South Africa only played a handful of test matches compared to England, Australia, India. So it's really tough for them to stay in the loop of the international cricketing world. But yes, coming back to the point, I'm not too worried about it. The guys will come together, and it's very important, as Rob Walter alluded to, that the players have been playing cricket. You want to be match fit. You don't want to take players into a tournament without being match fit. And talking about fitness, let's move on to the fitness segment of this episode. So I'm actually quite happy with CSA applying these fitness standards and sort of going less rigid with this. At the end of the day, you want your players to be match fit and not necessarily be able to run marathons. I've always been someone who enjoyed running, but there are other players that might not be as natural when it comes to road running or sprints, etc. I think of someone like Hashim Amla, who wasn't the fittest guy when it came to bleep tests and yo-yo tests and running a 3K time trial, but he could bat for 2 days and he wouldn't even have a sweat on his face. So very interesting thing, very interesting dynamic when it comes to fitness. You want to be as fit as you can, but it's a personal thing. It's an individual thing, and each player needs to have his own responsibility to make sure that he can actually perform out there for long periods of time in the heat of India or Pakistan or the UAE or even Australia and South Africa in summertime. It can get very hot, and you want your bowlers to be able to bowl their spells and the batters to bat for long periods of time. Then, in my opinion, you can sort of turn a little bit of a blind eye to some of the fitness standards when it comes to sprinting, especially the guys who are not as natural as others. I love this. This week on ABReacts, we will only be covering a couple of things because I had that live session with you guys last week where we did cover quite a few things. I don't generally like to cover things about myself or where I'm involved, but the Cricinfo team have decided to pick the top 20 ODIs of all time. And the pink day where I scored one of my most memorable hundreds came in on number 19. You see me there in the pink clothing. I had one of my best knocks of my life. I'll never forget Russell Domingo when Riley Rousseau and Hashim Amla had that amazing partnership up front. Russell came to me in, I think, about the 30th over, then 35th over again, trying to get me promoted into the number 3 slot. I was reluctant to do so. I said, no, David Miller is a better pick. But ultimately, the whole team almost came together and said, AB, you are going in next. They pushed me down the stairs. And the minute I crossed the boundary rope, I realized, okay, hold on. This was a good decision because I'm feeling it. The crowd was so loud. It was electric there at the Bull Ring on the day. And very happy to see that the ODI is coming on the number 19 spot, in the number 19 spot for the Cricinfo top 20 ODIs of all time. It was a very memorable day for me, and it was incredible that my parents were there that day. My dad is a doctor and generally never had a lot of time to watch my games, but he was there to witness it live on that day. Just a very special day for me and for the team that we made it into that number 19 spot. Thanks, Cricinfo. Then we'll move on to Jasprit Bumrah. We see he's back with a bang. Had a fantastic series against Ireland. And I mean, there's absolutely no surprise, to be honest. We watch him running in as per usual. It looks like he never left the game. He's incredible talent and definitely one of the big draw cards and big weapons for India in this upcoming Asia Cup and also World Cup. Touch wood, he stays fit throughout the Asia Cup so that we can see him in full force in that World Cup winning games for India. So we didn't have a quiz last week because we did that live session. But on this week's Fairplay Quiz, I decided to talk about myself again. I became the only keeper to score a century and take 10 catches in the same match. Which game was it? And there's a little hint for you guys. It was in Johannesburg. I had a fantastic day at the Bull Ring. I remember Dale Steyn finding the outside edge on numerous occasions, making me dive around in front of the slips. I took some good catches and obviously scored that 100. It was a very memorable one for me, and I'll never forget that. So, thank you very much for joining me. That's all for this week's 360 show presented by Fairplay. I'm going straight to bed now. I can't even keep my eyes open. I haven't slept at all for the last few days. But thank you very much for joining me. Hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and remember to post some comments down below in the descriptions box, and we'll stay in touch. I'll see you guys next week.